Sadly, the release of the so-called Epstein files today at the White House by Attorney General Pam Bondi, involving a bunch of politically correct, brand name, Conservative Inc. approved pundits and influencers, is less than a nothing burger. It is a pathetic circus to distract from the cover-up of the cover-up. Here's a small sample of some of those who were chosen to be a part of this limited hangout, this cover-up and distraction. DC Drano, Libs of TikTok, Mike Cernovich, Liz Wheeler, all holding the binder of what's labeled the Epstein files. Phase 1, which actually are old documents that had been published and publicly available for years now. In fact, the ones that they put in this binder were redacted. You could already read the unredacted files for years now. Of course, these clowns don't know that because they're a bunch of Johnny-come-latelys who were in high school with curfews issued by their parents when OG YouTubers like myself, and especially Alex Jones, who really broke the story, who I first learned it from like 15 years ago, knew all of this already. Stay tuned and subscribe to my channel if you're new here, because you're not going to hear information and analysis like this anywhere else. I'll get into what is in the files, why the FBI is not releasing them, and why these willing dupes are part of the cover-up. The memes from those who are in the know and realize what a sham this is really do the best explanation. There's Pam Bondi. I'm releasing the Epstein files. Be honest. I'm releasing some of the Epstein files. Be honest. I handed out binders to a bunch of influencers. Thank you. Meme maker, the Right to Bear Memes, who never misses, posted this photo to illustrate the supposed Epstein files Phase 1 release. And for those who aren't familiar with this photo, this is a picture of a meal that was served at an exclusive island festival that was just a total scam. There's a Netflix special about it. The organizer went to prison for fraud. A bunch of morons were duped by a bunch of social media influencers into thinking that they were going to go to this exclusive island festival, only for it to be just a complete and utter embarrassment and a disaster. Congresswoman Anna Paulina Luna is not very happy, posting, "I nor the task force were given or reviewed the Epstein documents being released today." In New York Post, story just revealed that the documents will simply be Epstein's phone book, although they're redacted, like I said. That phone book had been publicly available for years. Then in all caps, she says, "This is not what we or the American people asked for. Get us the information we asked for instead of leaking old info to the press." But these influencer idiots have no idea. I would be embarrassed if I traveled to Washington, D.C. and was given a binder of already publicly available information, but actually less than what's available, because like I said, it is retracted. This is absolutely pathetic. And by the way, regular viewers know this, but in case you're new here, I very rarely title tag or write descriptions for the details of the content that are in my videos. So if you're going to try to dig up the receipts of me talking about Epstein for the last 10, 15 years on YouTube, you're not going to find it because those keywords are red flags. I may not even include his name in this title. But you can go and check out my now decade-old book, The Bohemian Grove Facts and Fiction, where on page 150, it notes billionaire Jeffrey Epstein, a personal friend of Bill Clinton, who also rubs elbows with many political and Hollywood elite, is accused of, well, doing certain things with certain kinds of people, et cetera, et cetera. You can read that for yourself. These keywords will cause red flags to start flying up for YouTube to entertain him and his friends on his luxurious and secluded Virgin Island estate. Epstein is a you-know-what kind of offender who has been convicted of soliciting you-know-what. Court documents also, well, this was 10 years ago, confirm that he had the bedrooms in his estate fitted with hidden cameras to videotape his high-powered guests' encounters with you-know-who, so he could blackmail them using the videos. And his MO, his method of operation, is so old that other operatives have engaged in the same kinds of activities for generations. I guarantee you, none of the conservative influencers who think that they broke the story today about the bogus Jeffrey Epstein files have any idea about this headline from 1989, front page, The Washington Times. You can just read that for yourself. But now we're going to get into the meat of the issue. The one area that none of these conservative clowns will dare touch on. And it is a bee's nest. It's bad to kick bee's nests. But sometimes you do have to point out, hey, there's a bee's nest over there. There's something going on. People can kind of figure things out on their own. You can put the pieces of the puzzle together. But these people don't want to even admit that there is a bee's nest. They want to distract from the bee's nest. So here is an article from last year. High-end bleepity-bleep ring in Boston and D.C. areas was a honeypot, meaning it is used to attract people, schemed by Russia, China, South Korea, and even our greatest ally over there to ensnare U.S. officials, intelligence experts believe. And, of course, that was a high-end network of brothels. Now we're going to start going into some even murkier waters. This Newsweek article from 11 years ago, I'm actually shocked that this was published. Other independent outlets published this same information because it's based off of the Edward Snowden leaks, but you would never hear any of the mainstream conservatives talk about this, or really anybody in a mainstream network. This must have slipped through the editors. A certain little country that never does anything wrong was flagged as top spy threat to the United States in the NSA documents that Edward Snowden revealed. Let's go even deeper, shall we? Here is our new Deputy Director, second in command of the FBI, Dan Bongino, former Secret Service agent, who I do have a lot of respect for, but as you will see, he is afraid to even mention that there is a bee's nest.
I'm in a green room at Fox, and I'm not going to say who because they didn't give me permission to share it, but the short story, but not who they are, says, you know, Epstein's an intelligence asset for people in the Middle East, right? I'm like, no, I didn't know that. I'm like, you sure of that?
Well, if you had listened to Alex Jones' show 15 years ago, then that would have been common knowledge, Dan.
The person, let's say, is like, I'm absolutely sure of that he's either a witting or unwitting asset, intelligence asset, meaning...
Well, we know what that means.
His plane and that island, the cameras, there's a big assumption out there that these videotapes were exclusively in the custody of Epstein. That's...
Only absolute morons believe that. I love how... Is his audience that dumb that he has to dumb things down this low?
It's a huge mistake. The reason they wanted this story to go away is because there's an assumption like, oh yeah, Epstein had him. No, he wasn't the only one who had him, according to this source.
Well, according to common sense, according to the court documents.
These assets, that's why this blackmail story makes so much sense. Which Middle Eastern countries they are, I don't know. But this person, who's a very, very good reporter,
he just has no idea. He just can't figure it out. It certainly wouldn't be the country that the NSA internally has cited as the top spy threat to the United States. Would it, Mr. Bongino? Here's Matt Gaetz going slightly further, and again, it's understandable why people don't want to kick the bee's nest. It's a very dangerous thing to do. Even me pointing out that there is a bee's nest over there, very dangerous thing to do. But I can't keep my mouth shut. I have to tell people what I know. And here is Matt Gaetz, kind of alluding to it, at least not playing dumb like Dan Bongino.
I actually think that on Epstein, it was a foreign government that took him out. I don't think it was a domestic enterprise.
Really?
I do. I'm not going to say which one, but
because, well, we know why.
I don't think it was domestic inspired to take out of him. I think
with a collaboration, of course, because these agencies work hand in hand oftentimes. It's like the mafia. Sometimes they're against each other. Sometimes they have to work together. That's how the intelligence world functions.
I think that was a foreign operation, government sponsored.
So foreign operation took out Epstein inside of our prison?
Yes.
So they must have been allowed to.
Oh, I think it was in concert with people in our government.
Wow.
But not at like some, low-level guard getting bribed kind of way.
Yeah.
At a state-to-state level.
Imagine what that foreign country, whose intelligence agency is called the Mossad, which is said to make the CIA look like a bunch of amateurs, has on Lindsey Graham. For him to do this. This looks like a meme. This looks like an AI meme. He really did this. This is how much he grovels in order to, well, not have the tapes of what he does released. Ghislaine Maxwell's father, that was Jeffrey Epstein's partner in crime, was a known Mossad operative, and so she learned the craft and got inducted in through her father's access. But Mike Cernovich says that if you point this out, you are anti-Semitic, just like disagreeing with Benjamin Netanyahu about the best flavor of ice cream will get you called anti-Semitic by Conservative Inc. pundits.
It's vaguely anti-Semitic. Mossad. Well, why? If Epstein were with Mossad, he'd be with the FBI too, right? You really think if Jeffrey Epstein was working for Mossad, that our own FBI wouldn't have intercepts of those conversations?
Of course they do. They work hand in hand, like the mafia, when other times they are in opposition.
Right? So why'd you just jump, Mossad?
Because Ghislaine Maxwell's father was Mossad, sir. But what else can you expect from a brave Conservative Inc. counterculture figure who suggested people do this in the face of the COVID tyranny?
Wear a mask. I wear a mask. Not because I'm afraid of coronavirus, but because I think you should be polite. People are freaking out. It's not a big deal. Just wear the mask.
Be polite. Just bow down and lick the boots of the government. And by the way, you should know that despite Mike Cernovich's personal brand trying to portray himself as a success strategist and a mind coach, he made his millions by divorcing his ex-wife because she worked for Facebook when they had their IPO, and then they became multimillionaires because of the stock, and then when they got divorced, he got half of her money, and then tried to portray himself as being this self-made man who did write a book with tons of spelling errors that sold, a couple hundred copies, maybe 1,000 copies, which is just no money at all, and then tried to portray himself as that's how he became, quote-unquote, successful. Here he is getting called out on it in a documentary, and he knows, because this is publicly available information, that he couldn't lie. So he did try to deflect and try to justify, but this is who Cernovich is.
Shauna is my second wife. My first marriage didn't work out. My ex, she would try to control me a lot. She's a very controlling person.
Because she was the breadwinner.
And I'm not somebody who likes to be controlled at all. People now claim that I get alimony from my ex-wife.
If you're dependent on your ex-wife,
well, it wasn't alimony, it was a divorce settlement. So it's not like these payments are ongoing. He got half of her assets, which was 7 figures.
If you're dependent on your ex-wife, that doesn't match with everything you preach.
That's what they say, but you claim to be some kind of alpha male. I'm like, well, it's pretty alpha to get paid alimony by a woman, isn't it? How many men? Well, and then they stumble.
That's a weak man right there. And sorry, Mike, I'm not stumbling. I'm speaking as clear as day. And I don't even want to get into his collaboration with Jack Murphy, which is a pseudonym of a literal cuck. It's just, you don't even want to know. I have zero tolerance for cowards, for sellouts, and for people who are so ignorant that they get duped into participating in a circus while thinking that they're on the cutting edge of some document dump when in fact they're being used as part of the distraction. Here's a post from Michael Knowles over at the Daily Wire, who I do have respect for, and Matt Walsh. I'll criticize anybody for anything, so it's not a black and white issue. But here's Michael Knowles saying, well, we already knew Epstein's crimes. We already knew many of the prominent people who palled around with him. Politically speaking, only one question matters regarding Epstein. What purpose did his operation serve? Actually, Mike, it's 2 questions. We already know what purpose it served, and then the other question that nobody wants to even ask, let alone answer, is which foreign country's intelligence agency was he working for? And again, it wasn't exclusively for them. He was working in collaboration. A lot of these international spy types will have connections with numerous intelligence agencies, and when they're that dirty, then they're both going to want to have access to him. They're both going to protect him. And so even those in Conservative Inc. who will say, well, he was involved in the blackmailing operation, maybe it was for the deep state or the CIA, they're certainly not going to mention the whole story. Just how years later, when his career was winding down, it came out that Hollywood producer, director Arnon Milchan was an admitted Mossad agent. And because I'm a truly independent OG YouTuber who never sold out to Conservative Inc., if you want to sponsor my work, support my channel, Best way is perhaps to join my locals community by clicking the link in the description below. It's $5 a month. It's like a private Facebook page. And that's where I'll post things that definitely aren't allowed on the big tech platforms. And it's a great way to sponsor my work. So head on over there or click the link in the description below and check it out.